what we're going to be discussing in this live is some broad techniques that we can apply to our creatives to make sure that they have a higher click-through rate. And there are a couple of principles behind them. They're always backed up by either data or research of things that we've done before and we've seen that they've worked. And they are general. Now, I don't know about you if you have some knowledge, some very basic knowledge about the Adobe tools, if you either if you're working from a Mac OS workflow or Windows, but these are the takeaway from here is that you are able to either search for specific effects that you want, know the principles, and to communicate them to a designer or someone that you outsourcing those specific requests and directions for your content. So I'm going to give you the editing tricks. We're going to go through a few of the editings I've done before for ads that have generated sales and have had impact before. So we are going to go through them and understand a little bit why they worked and what principles we can do either ourselves or to communicate to somebody to do them, okay? Right. So the first one I want to talk about is typography. Typography, as we're going to have a look in this example here, for a motorcycle fairing company, is that we're basically going to be animating their some title cards with general information about this product. One thing that you should always have in mind with typography is the rhythm, right? And that's going to be dependent on what kind of segment you are, business, and what kind of product you are, because these are going to determine what your target audience is and how you're going to communicate. We have this company here, which, like I said, is mostly fairings, which is like fairings for sports motorcycles. So you sense that this is the type of person that you're going to be communicating with. It's much more action driven, right? So this has to come off in the animation. This has to come off in the way that sorry. This has to come in the way that this that these people live and how they behave. So that reflects the kind of animation we're looking for. So we see here that everything is sort of fast-paced. We have titles. We have a typography that matches the type of matches with the scheme and with the context of sports and with extreme sports, right? And we have things moving pretty fast, either vertically or horizontally. So you can actually get a lot of packs for and presets for typography, either to use on Adobe Premiere, on Final Cut, on After Effects. But what you want to watch out for is the fact that they are and that they fit the people that you're going to be targeting. You want to make sure that uh, if I'm targeting boomers, if I'm targeting 40-year-old women that likes yoga, then there is a type of typography that's going to work for them. There is a way that segments that advertise for those women already do and already communicate with them in a way. So it's important that you go and then research, okay, I want this typography to go like this, to animate like this with this sort of pacing, so that this is what's been proven to work for them. So when I look at a product that is sold for people who like sports, motorcycles, and extreme sports, then there's a whole other idea. You gotta come aggressive. There's much more animation and things behind it. So this is something that you have to consider when you're looking at typography. So this is the example that I have here. So I'm not going technical, as you can see. I'm just showing you the type, the typography in itself has to be not only within your brand, but within the segment, and the animation has to also match the pacing and how that target demographic is perceived and successfully targeted. So this is it for typography. The next example we're going to look at is interesting ways in which we can get, if basically if we are shorthand in creative assets, we have a couple of photos lying around, we don't have the availability nor the budget to go and hire and outsource people, and we want to do something with the footage that we have. There is a couple of ways to either doing it yourself or communicating to someone to do some pretty interesting things, and we're going to take a look at some ads that actually performed really well, and there weren't all that much to do in terms of involvement in work and hours. It's simple stuff, but because we know what we're doing and the ideas behind it, we save time, we save money, and we actually make a lot of money. Full of projects within this project, but we can start here and start discussing some principles. I'll get to the reutilization of assets in a minute. I think we could do the split screen first, and is another technique that is widely utilized, but not always correctly utilized. So this is something we should definitely talk about. There are a couple of ways to go in terms of split screens, but the bottom line is when you're thinking of top of the funnel creatives, you're thinking the canvas that either Facebook is going to give you or Google is going to give you, if it's YouTube ads, and what people is going to expect is a very, very little time, right? When you are on the top of the funnel, most of the time people do not know about you, people do not know about your product, and all of a sudden there you are in their feed, and you're actually getting in the way of things because they didn't wake up knowing that it would happen, and they just don't care, especially display ads, right? They're just getting in the way of your browsing, and you have to communicate something fast, and you have to make ideas associate really fast, and that's why split screen is so important when you're given so little space and time to do something or to communicate your USP. So in this example, we're looking at a creative from a company that sells personalized. They sell personalized. How do you call them? Supplements. And basically, you want to really associate this to a natural ingredients and a lifestyle that is built on principles of health and balance. And this is difficult to do because whenever we see a pill or something that you ingest daily, we do not associate good feelings with it. Either you're sick or you're dependent on some sort of medicines to do basic human functions. And this is where we have split screen. This is a 5-second gift. I need to show someone what this brand does, what this product does in a very quick amount of time. And so here we have a lifestyle shot of a woman holding the product box, and on the left side we have the actual product, a lifestyle, not a lifestyle, a photo shoot with elements that will bring this idea, this association. So the idea here is to bring the lifestyle, show a little bit of what you envision. In this case, the target audience here is women in their 20s. They are active, they want to improve their health, they want to improve their body and their physical appearance as well, and just be a well-rounded person. So we try to bring this element in the lifestyle, and the way that we read is always from left to right, at least in the Western countries. So the positioning here is also important as to what we're going to do here, and simply put this framing in as much association to natural things as possible. So after we have this set up, we have the basic ideas, and then we can take this to Premiere Pro. We can take this, even Photoshop can do gifts. and make some sort of association. In this case, this photo, we have actually an animation underlying it. I don't know if you can see it. It's a couple of photos, and what I've done on the right side is that, let me see if I can access it. On the right side, I've put all of the photos of this influencer and sort of position them so that they're static, sort of stabilizing them and creating a little gift and going onto the folders, onto the layers of, Adobe. You can just stack them, and then you put them consecutively, and then you have sort of a gift effect. It's pretty simple, but then again, we're doing something simple because we have a little bit of time and we want to get the message across as fast as possible. So this is the right side, right? On the left side, this is a gift as well. As you can see here, and the hand opens, shows a little bit of the package, shows the setup here with the pills here and the fruits, and then closes again. So what I did is that I just extended a little bit of the layer time, and then I have everything within, as you can see here, 5 seconds. Why 5 seconds? Because if you upload a video for uploaded advertising video gift that is 5 seconds or under, Facebook is automatically going to loop them. So we have a nice effect, and that's something that we should also always pay attention to, because I want to make sure that by the end of my gift, the hand closes, and in the beginning, the hand is opening. So this is something very important. We want to create a seamless transition back to the loop. And this is really important because then there's a symmetry here, and we want to pay more attention, as opposite to something that has a jarred ending, and which is not something eye-pleasing. And once we make sure that our loop is right, we took care of the right hand side, which is the left side shoot with product placement. So we look at the left side now, and we see that the gift is okay. What is the next step? What is the next step going to be? Let me check here. We do the typography, we do a little animation and review of the text, and this is something that I always take a lot of care with. Before you begin this gift, don't put the text right away. You have to look at the composition and say, okay, is this overflowing with information? Because if so, and you have a little bit of time, 5 seconds, around 5 seconds, what you can do is that you can begin the video and you can just leave this as it is. It tells the story already before we introduce text and information and call to actions. Then what you have is a hierarchy, right? I first see the image, and I'm going to get all of the story of what it is about from here alone. I don't put images, I don't put text, I don't put typography just now. I just let you do your thing, and then look at these images of this woman holding the box, the fruits, the pills, let you do the association for about a second. It's all it takes. And then I do the animations revealing. I see a lot of gifts that lose a lot of potential where they just have all of the information already in there. So what you want to ease the person into the information, as a similar thing would be in a Word document, right? You first have the heading, then you have the chapters, and then you have the vision. That's how you do. That's how you create hierarchy in an image, in a Word document. So you do the same for an image, especially for a video, right? You first do the introduction. What is it about? Where is it taking me? Even if it's a 5-second gift, it's important not to bombard somebody with CTAs and headlines and things in the creative itself. So this is why it's important to have this reveal information after you had a time looking at the image, so that you get the rest. Right. And this is what we see here. Another thing is making sure that the text is visible. How you can do this depending on the color that you go for the text, what it is related to your branding, make sure there is a layer below where you can control some opacity or some color correction values so that you make sure everything is nice to look at, but also really readable. Because otherwise, if it's hard to read, people are not going to pay so attention to that, right? And logo placement as well. So we have a nice little gift that is going to loop pretty nicely, and the information is there, and it's pretty visible. Now let's go to another one, and we can see, and we're going to have a look at a pretty simple approach, but also nonetheless very interesting if you want to communicate to your designers or either do it yourself. This is an image. I've built this into a gift, but let me just load it so that you can, sorry, computer's struggling here to give us text. Okay, I think you can see it now. It's a gift. It looks quite nicely, and people had a fun reaction because you first think it's an image, and then there's somebody shaking something, so you scroll back to look at it. It's a pretty neat idea. It's simple, and the execution is also well, sort of simple. You just have to either be a little bit perfectionist with it or Photoshop, or communicate to somebody, okay, I want this lady's hand to twist a little bit, and you also have to know the limitations of what you're doing. If you're looking at this creative, the first thing that I did when looking at this, I said, okay, I can make her hand move. How am I going to do this? Well, we have a couple of levels to go about this. But first thing is the ideation behind why would I do this, and if that would work. Like I said, 5 seconds, it's all you got. So if it's 5 seconds and it's top of the funnel, or it's someone that hasn't been exposed to my brand before, I really want to come up with a way for them to react or to stop and at least notice my message, right? You see that here I didn't cut the text begin with a hand because I think it wasn't necessary. There wasn't too much text information there, so I left it. And then we go with the hand animation, and that's all needed, really. So after going through this research and say, okay, there's potential in this idea, we go and we test in Photoshop. And basically what I did is that with this image, I went and isolated this element that is going to be shaking here, as you can see, which is the hand and the sachets from Sandoz. And then what I did is basically, let's see where there's animation here. Yeah, on the hand. It's basically cleaned up, as you can see, the rims of the image, so that when she rotated the background that was the information that was on the background would be revealed, right? Because there's things behind my hand, but in the photo there isn't this information. So I used a little bit of the stamp tool to add more information to the rims, and then I creased the hand, right? So that's all I did up until this moment. So then comes the animation, right? I looked at the axis of her hand and I say, okay, how can we do this quickly? This is where the rotation is going to be centered, right? Because this is her wrist. And then I did this, and the movements, as you can see here, they are pretty, they're trying to follow sort of an organic pattern to them. I know, guys, this might be like a lot of nerdy stuff, but you can see that it's pretty following some sine or cosine rules, right? There's the values and the terms. So what do I want to do with this? I created an organic movement out of her hand, out of an image. It's a low quality image, but it performed, And it performed because there was a gimmick thing inside of it that made you stop scrolling and look back at it because something was moving that wasn't supposed to. And that's working with your uh, with your conventional ideas of what something is supposed to do. And then when we break out of it, and then you have to look again. And this is something that is widely done in gifts, actually, either flashing things or moving things out of simple animation. But the fact is we stopped and looked at them because they're short, they're not going to consume a lot of our time, and there's something to be seen there. I'm going to play the animation again for you. So I think that the most important thing is just looking at your assets and say, okay, there is something that I can do with this image that I have or with this video that I have, and there always is. Especially if you've had a winning ad for some time and then you're looking to pimp it up, right? You're looking to do something different because people are just reaching the point of ad fatigue. And then you can, okay, either I'm going to change a few things on Premiere or Final Cut, or I'm going to ask my outsource some creative expert on Fiverr or Upwork and say, okay, I need you to do some simple animation with this element or this element so that we can increase click-through rates. And this is an example that worked. So with that, we can look at another editing trick. I'm just now realizing that the title of my live is not showing. If there's someone watching, basically it is a couple of editing tricks to boost your conversion rate and your click-through rate and your conversion rate. So this is what we're doing here. So let's look at our final example. Just a second. This is another one. This is a little bit more. It's in the same way, in the same sort of ideation of the previous one. This was just a single image from an influencer, and we constructed it, reconstructed a 3D scene out of it. And if I play the gift for you, you see that basically I'm just zooming in and out of the image. Something basic, right? And it just tells me this is a personalized supplement and blah, blah, blah. It's pretty simple. But then again, the half the work is just looking at the assets and saying, okay, I can do something with this, even if it's simple. What I've done with this image is separated it into 3 layers because we have the foreground, we have the middle ground and background, and they're going to move at different rates, right? As you can see in the gift. What's closest to the camera is going to move faster. What's in the middle, medium, and what's in the back is going to move really slowly. And that's how you create sort of a 3D perception. And people reacted to this gift, right? And this is what we want. We want them to look at the content and then put your brand on it. So once we do this, once we look at an image and say, okay, this used to perform, but what can we do now? And this is one of the tricks. It's 3D perception, but faking it, because this is actually 2D, and I'm going to show you. Let's look at the background here. As you can see, I have middle ground, background, and foreground. And if I isolate them, you can see I have just the cup here. And let's play and see how it's animating. Yeah. And if you can see, I have just the table moving at a slower pace. I actually should show you the animation, how it's going. Yeah, right. We have the table moving at a slower pace. And then finally, we have the background moving even at a slower pace. So when we combine them together, we have this 3D effect out of a 2D image. It's not much, it's not anything crazy, but it's just being able to notice that there is a potential to do something interesting in an image that has worked before, and then saying, okay, what we can do, we can flash something, we can move something out of the way, we can make a handshake, we can make a 3D perception. They're not going to take a lot of time, but this is an approach that is going to bring you higher conversion rates in a gift format, which has to be super fast, get your attention, and tell you something. And as you can see, this was the approach. Then we can put whatever title we want and a CTA along with the logo. And then we have our effect sort of zooming in and out, and then has been proven to be a scroll stopper. So this is another approach. So to summarize what we've looked at here, we've looked at typography, animating what types of typography, especially matching to your target audience, knowing if they are people that are outgoing and action driven, or if it's people that are more in their homes, and if they are more down to earth and all natural, and because these characteristics and behaviors will influence how typography is going to move for them. I'm not going to use the same typography for people that are use GoPros. They are all action driven, and I have a way of animating typography there, to someone that does yoga and it's very healthy things and is all about peace of mind and meditating. So there's a way of animating for them, and it's really worth researching competitors that target these people so that you know how to bring typography to the table correctly, either you doing or an outsourced third party. We've looked at some animation techniques regarding split screens, why we need split screens, why they're important, how to effectively use them, because a lot of people misuse them. And the idea is that we need to frame a story pretty quickly, always making sure not to overflow the creative with text. If you need to absolutely need to use them, animate the text in and out. First start with the image and then animate the texts in and then out, so that there's time for a person to see all of the information in a hierarchy way. And we've also seen some techniques so that we can bring motion and 3D perception to the images that you might have lying around. They've worked before, you want to pick them up, and that's also another approach that you might have. I've covered some techniques. It's definitely not the 27 total ones that I want to talk, but this is a series. So if you want to be, if you want to join in the next one, I'll be working more with Premiere, which I think is an application you'll be more used to working than Adobe After Effects. But all of these, I've chosen not to show the examples, to share my screen and my workflow, but not get too technical, because I know the public here is people who are dealing in the higher level with the campaign management and the strategy. So it's just a way for you to better communicate to outsource or third parties, or even doing yourself, but in a simplified way. What are the concepts that are going to work? And with that, I will do it next week probably, or the week before it. But I'll continue this series of editing tricks that we've used on high performing ads and bringing and share with you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot for staying till the very end. This was e-commerce scaling strategies by SalesGenomics, brought to you by Matt from SalesGenomics. If you're interested in more tips and strategies on how to scale your e-commerce business, visit our Facebook group called e-commerce scaling strategies by SalesGenomics, or follow us on social media.